All right. Hey traders, TG Watkins here. Let's see. We should be good out there on the social medias. We got YouTube and X and Meta, not Facebook anymore. So yeah, we should be good. And then over here in the Moxy room, we should be good too. Thanks, Danny. Looks like we're good to go, up and running again. And so basically, the market keeps kind of pulling back. If you guys, I was just on the mic for almost an hour and a half in the Moxy room, talking to everybody, kind of going through what's going on. Because, it's always a little challenging and uncomfortable when the market keeps pulling back like this, especially when the small caps are under pressure. And that's one of the big things that I like to trade. And so, we're just trying to figure out what's going on with this. And for those of you out on the social medias, we got a little bit more that we can kind of talk about and some potential insight, and then we'll kind of dive into that and show you what I'm looking at. Feel free, if you guys out there on the interwebs have any questions, YouTube, Meta, X, you should be able to comment in the chat on this stream and let me know if you have any questions on that kind of stuff. But for what we're kind of looking at, some of the things that I've been seeing here is we've been able to add a few trend lines, and we'll just have to see if these trend lines keep holding. And we've been looking at a few names of our positions that they've been pulling back. Basically, remember, the whole narrative of this is that the market underneath the surface started to pull back December 2nd. So that's when breadth topped out. That's when the IWM topped out, RSP, the Dow, things like that started to top out. And then it kind of worked its way up the food chain, and now the mega caps are pulling back and all that kind of stuff, and obviously the S&P and whatnot. But some of the names that we were trading in the small caps, as they've been pulling back, they've actually been doing a pretty good job of just staying in a pullback channel, meaning that this has been basically kind of a reasonable pullback. Most of them haven't just crashed like this. Now we'll get to the quantum stocks. Those things, that bubble seems like it might have burst for the moment, and so we'll kind of dive into that. And so now we have to just watch and see how long does the market want to pull back for. Does it get worse? Does it get better? And where we go from there. And part of the thing that I've been looking at along with this channel is as of yesterday, because where I left off the Moxy traders was, I said, hey, the market is now back at this middle, kind of the middle part of the channel. That's one potential area of support. And then if you look horizontally, you can see here that price is also at a previous support area. Now, the ultimate support area has been down here, and we saw that right around the new year. I think it was like Thursday going into Friday, and that's where it held. And then we had Monday opening with a gap up right into resistance. So we also got that one correct. I said, hey, that's probably going to be the top for the day, and there should be a pullback. And lo and behold, it did. So we've got this area of support that we're looking at, trying to see if something's going to hold. And the Moxy traders know what I'm about to say here. They've heard me explain this before, and there are numerous examples that I can show you guys. And we've actually traded some, Bitcoin being one of them. But a lot of times, if we're trying to figure out how far the market's going to pull back or a ticker is going to pull back, and then it's finally ready to go up, a lot of times, and this is a little bit of a clue, is that if it's in a channel like this, when it pulls back to the 50% mark, holds, and then goes up, that tends to be the beginning of the move out of the pullback channel. So here we are sitting right at that middle spot. I don't know it yet. It's way too early to call that, but it is something to watch and see if that area starts to hold. If it does, okay, we might want to lean a little bit more bullish and see if the market is actually going to start coming out of this channel. If it does not hold, then okay, so be it. It was just a temporary area of support, and it still wanted lower. That's fine. So now that I've shown you that, let me show you the example, because Bitcoin did a really good example of this, and DDOG also did a really good example of this. So here you are with Bitcoin on the daily chart. Give me a second to let Thinkorswim warm up. There you go. Yep, there you go. We can get that warning. So notice here with Bitcoin, I think it was for about 7 months, this thing was pulling back in this channel. And notice how it was pretty reasonable. I mean, just in this channel, pulling back, pulling back, pulling back, meaning nobody was really panicking out. It got overbought, and it was just trying to work its way back down to potential support. And then what you'll notice is right here, you see how Bitcoin pulled back to the 50% mark of that channel and it held? Well, that was the beginning of the next move to the upside. So that's why I'm just saying with the S&P, that this is something just to be watching and see if it does something and see if that middle strike of the channel happens to be something. Again, way too early to tell, but it's something to talk about and see what happens. So for the most part, if we also back up and we look at the mags, this is a thing we were talking about as well inside of the Moxy room. This is part of why I think that the market is still a little bit under pressure and why we should not be surprised if there's still some more slowness to the market. If you look at the Magnificent Seven, if you look at the big FANG stocks and all that kind of stuff, they're kind of not doing much. Some of them are up. Amazon's up. Meta had a good streak, but they're resting. And if the reason I say that is because if you look at the weekly chart, they are pretty high up. They're outside of the outer boundary. They're pulling away from the moving average, and so they really just need to take some time to settle in and figure out where they're ready to go back up again. So this is why I'm like, nothing looks too terrible right now. Underneath the surface, a lot of stocks have already pulled back. And so we just need to see if this can start holding in this area. So we kind of look at that. And then another thing, if we look at the IWM or the RSP, yep, it's down again today. I was kind of hopeful. I would have preferred to see the hourly 50 hold, but okay, if it doesn't want to hold the hourly 50 and it wants to do this, that's fine. The other kind of clue and the other thing I'm looking at, and to the Moxy traders, I didn't actually tell you guys this yet. It still might be a little bit too early to say something about, but one thing that is of note is notice how for the last 3 days, the IWM has gone down, but notice how the Moxy indicator continues to go up. So if this continues to work out and this actually ends up being the low for the market and it does go up, that is going to be something that I'm going to be pointing out into the future and saying, hey, this was a little bit of a clue. Price came down for a few days. Moxy indicator, the momentum-based indicator, kept moving up. Doesn't that kind of indicate something? Yeah, possibly. So that's something we're going to be keeping our eyes on as well. And then also on the daily chart, and we were being on the mic for over an hour this morning, and I still didn't manage to cover everything. Here's another little something that, if I didn't cover it over the last couple of days, was notable. That price ran right into the 21 EMA on the daily chart. That's pretty understandable. That's part of the elf shoe situation. You guys, as far as being Moxy subscribers, that that's a common thing. So not too surprised that the market pulled back. It's just now, where does the market want to pull back to? And so that's where we're going to be watching and seeing if this level actually starts to hold. We want to see if this starts to hold. If it doesn't, and if it starts to break this down, then yeah, it's not going to be great. And it's going to keep putting the market under pressure. So really, we're just kind of in a holding pattern, a waiting game, trying to just see when the market wants to shape up and do its thing. Do remember today is Wednesday, so tomorrow the market is actually closed. We get another day off. It's going to be in remembrance. It's going to be for the funeral of Jimmy Carter, the president Jimmy Carter. So yeah, just make sure you guys don't come to the market. I'm sure it's going to be all over TV if you guys want to check it out. Otherwise, take a day off, a little bit of vacation, maybe kind of study some charts if you want, or get out there and go for a walk. Maybe enjoy the weather. Although I think I hear that the kind of the East Coast is getting a snowstorm, something like that. I've been hearing something about it. So don't bring an umbrella. Hopefully that thing might carry you away if there's going to be a big storm. Okay, so the other big news of the day is that Jensen, the CEO of Nvidia, was asked during CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, what do you think about quantum computing and on all this craziness that's been happening? And he said, yeah, it's still too far off. We're still like, what he said, about 20. He felt it was like 20 years off until it was actually useful or practical. So basically, this whole thing about the quantum stocks suddenly going up and getting crazy might have been a little bit of a bubble. And I'm no stranger to bubbles. We traded some really fun stuff during COVID, during 2020. And the big bubble for us on that one that basically had all the small caps running lasted for about 4 months. Well, this quantum thing, I don't know. It's still maybe a little too early to see if this is a bubble, but this is looking pretty rough right now. And that lasted about a month and a half, in through here. So yeah, 46 days, about a month and a half. And so yeah, he threw some really cold water on it. Now, all that being said, and we talked about this to the Moxy subscribers and all the traders there today, something to be aware of with these things is you just have to understand that when names go up like this, kind of out of nowhere, and they go up this big. I mean, even RGTI, just to take a shot at it from here to here, they went up 1,400% in 45 days. Come on, it's not sustainable, okay? So, yeah, it's hard to know exactly when they're going to end, of course, but it is smart to kind of take some profits along the way. And so when something like this finally happens, just get out. Okay, just got to get out because you don't know where this is going to go next, and there's no sense writing it out. But basically, it was just vertical. It was straight up. Yeah, there was a lot of volume, but it was starting to pull away from its moving averages and getting really far outside of these outer boundaries and stuff. So super super duper crazy. And then they just broke, and especially based on the news with Jensen kind of putting cold water on that. So there's that. And then I even heard, was it QBTS or QUBT? One of them was also having a secondary offering on top of this news. So they're really getting whacked, as far as that goes. But yeah, a lot of these names up huge. And some of the crazier ones, I forget some of the tickers because I really wasn't tracking too many of them, but they kind of came from nowhere. They were down. They really had not gone anywhere. The volume was like 200,000 shares per day, basically nothing. And they cost $1 or a few pennies. And then suddenly you're getting millions of shares coming into them, and then they go up and get crazy. It can be fun if you can catch them and ride them, but you don't really want to be. It's like the tulip thing back in Denmark when the tulip crazy frenzy was going on. It's a little hard to catch any of these towards the end, and you know what? I missed them. So we got some stuff like Soundhound, and we got some other good names that were moving up pretty well. But when you look at something like these, unless you can kind of get on that train earlier, it's hard to be the last one in. So you just don't want to be in there. So hopefully you guys are doing all right. I know some of us in the Moxy room kind of got some knocked around a little bit, especially Ion Q. That was another one. Yeah, Tim, right? Yeah, CEOs never have ulterior motives, don't they? That could be a thing. It's certainly a possibility that maybe Jensen was trying to throw some cold water on the quantum computing, because maybe that kind of infringes upon their all of their GPUs and their AI software. That's a thought. That's definitely a thought. So we'll see. We'll have to see how everything kind of shakes out and how the dust settles. But clearly, it's having an effect. And for those of us who are out here to make money, not to be right, but to make money, when you see something like this, you just got to step aside. There's no sense. You're not an institution. You're not a big company that has to hang on to these things because you're locked in. No, we can get out with a quick push of the button, and then you just get out. But yeah, big surprise on these things today. And even if you were in IonQ, if you got in, gosh, even if you got in like here, you could be up 180, 190%. That's great. And you know what? Even if you manage to get out right at the open, right and through here, okay, still pocketed 123%. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. So I think that you kind of need to be able to look at some of this stuff comparatively and say, yeah, okay, kind of got hit on that, gave some back, but it could be worse. So hopefully nobody was in too high on these kind of things. As I said, IonQ, this one maybe was a little bit tough to see anything coming because especially with it being up here at new all-time highs, yeah, it's looking good. I mean, it looks like it wants to break out and keep going, but then news comes out. And if you guys have not experienced this before, well, unfortunately, just welcome to the market. That's what happens sometimes. News just trumps the charts. So yeah, and you could also see IonQ on the monthly and weekly. Again, it was just as really really high up there, and not all stocks are just not impervious to this. I mean, you can even look at Tesla. And we traded Tesla. I think we made 200%, maybe a little over 200% on TSLL, which was the leveraged ETF of Tesla. But we knew to get out. So we exited right there, which was, let's see, where was that out there? I thought we actually got out maybe higher. I'll have to look back at what we did. I think we even got out there. That's why I have a mark here and a mark there. I think those were our two exits. I know one of them was. And that just makes sense. These things are getting a little bit too crazy, a little too frothy up and through there. And you can see that Tesla's pulling back. Now, the real question is how far back and for how long? We don't exactly know that answer. It's one of those things you just kind of have to let these things settle down, come down, and figure out where they really want to go. Oh, Tim, let's see. So you were in a webinar and they looked at every time Jamie Dimon, so bank, Chase Bank, said that the market was going to tank, it went up every time. And then they looked at every time he said the market was good to go up, it went down every time. Sounds like the Jim Cramer fund. It's been funny. What's the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker? If you guys know the Twitter account, I'm sure a lot of us know that one. And they're a couple of guys, kind of funny out there. And they have the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker, and then they have the inverse Kramer fund. And they are basically matching each other, which is crazy. I don't know how he can be in business still if you can actually make more money by shorting the stocks that he says that should go up. I don't know. He must be getting paid on the side or something like that. I don't know how it's even possible for him to have that such a track record like that, but it's crazy. Yeah, Enrico, with the speculative stocks, you don't want to overstay your welcome. We are in a few speculative stocks. We actually got out of a couple of them today because stops got hit, probably based on this news, and also based on just small caps kind of getting under pressure today. So that's fine. We can always get back in sometime. What we're trying to do is figure out if some of these things can really go up. But Soundhound, we did a really, really great job on this one. We did a great job. Let's see, how do we track this? We got in right around there, and then we added, I think, what did we do? We added here, I think, and then we started exiting right around there. So in that case, from kind of trough to peak, where we got out was 220%, something around there. And then this last one where I think we added here, and then we got out here. I think we got about 40 to 45% on that one. So between those two trades, it was really quite good. We had a really nice time with that one. So yeah, I see a bunch of eyeballs. This is great to see, but a bunch of eyeballs over there in YouTube, Meta, and X. Let me know if you guys have any questions of what you're kind of looking out there with this market. Hopefully, you guys are doing well and not getting to run over too much by these quantum computing things like that. And then, other than that, I'm still seeing that I think this market is still okay. Big picture, I think it needs to settle in a little bit, but I think it's going to be hard to really say that a lot of this stuff is overdone. In fact, let me look at, we'll go back to Bitcoin because Trader, yes, SGEM was the short Jim Cramer ETF. Does it still exist? We should look that up. But yeah, if we look at something like Bitcoin, I think it's hard to really say that this market's done yet with names like this. I mean, yeah, it's kind of pulled back, it's settling in. You can see here clearly it had a vertical move. Again, those are generally unsustainable, so they need to pull back, they need a rest, whatever. And now we just need to see if these things can kind of hang on to there. But if we look lower, you can see we're still kind of coming into the daily 50. That's going to be the first line in the sand. We don't know if the daily 50 is going to hold or if it's going to dip just below the daily 50. But the fact that it was so far away from the daily 50 totally makes sense that it's going to take a bit of a breather. And we're seeing this. I'm sure everybody's looking at MSTR, right? That's been a big name. Well, let me show you something here. For those of you who are out there on the interwebs, on the social medias watching me, I'm going to assume that since you're not in the Moxy room, you don't have the Moxy indicator. Let me show you some of the reasons why you should be in the room and why the Moxy indicator is really great. If you were looking at MSTR and you're just looking at price on the daily chart and you're like, hey, look at this. Look at this price holding the daily 21. This thing is going to keep going. And even if you went down and you're looking at the hourly chart and you're like, wow, look at that. Price just held the hourly 50. It's holding the daily chart. It's holding the hourly chart. This thing is going to go higher. I'm going to get in, load the boat right here, and you're up for a day. And you're thinking, this is fantastic. And then look, it just crunches on you. And you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? I'm either losing a bunch of money or I got stopped out. And you're like, wow, how did I miss this? How can I figure this out? Well, here's the key. If you look at the Moxy indicator, notice how on the hourly chart the indicator was below zero. Remember, the Moxy indicator is a momentum-based indicator. What this tells you is that energy and momentum are now negative. Like you should not be long if the indicator is below zero. And so what I call this, first of all, there's your Moxy price trigger that's telling you that that's when the indicator went negative. That's when momentum went negative. So when price is over the 50 SMA and the Moxy indicator is below zero, I call that an inverse trampoline move. Basically, think about hitting your head on a trampoline. It's going to push you down. It's going to just smack you right back down. And so these are false long entries. You should not be entering long in this situation. And that is what was telling us, be careful, number one, with the crypto area, but number two, specifically MSTR, this is probably not going to work right now. And so that was the big clue that this thing was likely to pull back, or at least, hey, it's not ready to go up right now. So another big reason why I think you guys, would benefit from having the Moxy indicator. And if you look at this, we've had some really good moves at the beginning of the year. And you can see here, look at this big move with MSTR. Now, this is another combination. I'm not going to show you guys the structure of kind of what we talk about with these moving averages, but let me just show you again about the Moxy indicator. Notice how price was over the 50 SMA on the hourly chart. Notice how the Moxy indicator was below 0. What this tells me is that this is still not quite ready to buy long yet. And case in point, look at this. We're now pulling back for 2 days. And those of us who are in the Moxy room, I posted about this pretty much here, and I said, "Hey, wow! Look at the moves that MSTR has had and these rebounds. This is fantastic, but it's not ready to buy yet. Let's look for a pullback." And I told them that because the Moxy indicator was below 0, and so now we've had price coming down here, and now we just kind of wait. We have to wait and see where this thing wants to go and where it's going to turn around, if it's going to turn around, and then if we want to, we can pick it up at that point. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. Tim, what do you mean? What about when the market is super bullish but trending down? Those are generally called pullbacks, pullbacks in an uptrend. I mean, if you just look at the SPX, Tim, kind of like what we were talking about this morning, if you look here, this was a 3-month pullback. In the midst of it, like, oh, this feels terrible, nothing's working. Is this market toast? Is it done? But look what happened. That was a 3-month pullback in a bull market, and look what happened after it finished. So that's why I'm saying that, here was a pullback and then the market went up. There was a big pullback, market went up. And right now I think we're in a pullback. So I'm viewing this as another pullback in an uptrend in a bull market. And so we just kind of have to wait it out. And once it's finished, then hopefully things look good and things continue to go to the upside. All right, so Katie, thanks for your patience. Yeah, let's take a look at Nvidia. I see you over there on YouTube. Now, this is what we talked about this in the Moxy room today. And this is part of what I was thinking. Now, I think specifically, if we actually go back and look at this near-term move, Katie, have you ever heard of the phrase, buy the rumor, sell the news? Give me a yes or a no if you've heard of that phrase before, because I think that's what this is. The idea that price went up like this in expectation of CES, Consumer Electronics Show, and Nvidia debuting more stuff. People got all hyped up. They're like, I'm going to buy Nvidia because they're going to be showing all these cool computers and all this cool stuff, and it's going to be awesome. And people are going to be like, oh my God, Nvidia is so great with all these new things that they just demonstrated and debuted. Their stock is going to rocket, and so they bid the stock up. Well, then okay, the news comes out. Everyone's like, yeah, pretty awesome. But also we know this, and it's really not that big of a surprise. And good job, Nvidia. And also the market's not really ready to go up right now. And also Nvidia is super high and kind of stretched and not really ready to go up. So people bought the rumor and then they sold the news. And I think that's what happened here. And whether the insiders were doing this or amateurs were doing this, it doesn't necessarily matter. But I think that's what happened here. So really, price is just back to where it came from. I don't really see anything too bad with this. If we look at the daily chart, it went up, it ran into some resistance right there. It just got too stretched for the moment. And right now, hey, we're right back here at the daily 50. We've got the 8 over the 21. And now we're just going to have to see, is this support going to hold, and is it going to go higher from here? And if you look at the monthly and weekly, we are basically at all-time highs. So there's really nothing too bearish about this. It's just resting. And I think that's kind of the big picture of what I've been saying for the last couple weeks, really even through December, is the market got overbought. It's pulling back. The big names are resting. And we just kind of have to, sit on our hands and fingers until this thing decides to really go up again. And we'll have to see when that is. Yeah, there you go, Emil. Yes, the bears are banging our fingers on the ramparts. There you go. That one was an easier sentence to say. So yeah, the Nvidia chart goes back to that mags chart that I showed at the beginning of this session, and things have just got a little overbought, and so we're just patiently waiting for everything to get itself sorted out. And same thing. I'll just show you IWM again. Same thing. The IWM small caps, they really got ripped down all of December, and now they're trying to base. That's what it looks like to me, and we'll just have to see, does this actually break lower, or is this basing and we're eventually going to get it sorted out and it goes higher? So we're just going to have to be patient. There are some names that are still going up. The Moxy traders today, we're talking about Roku. Roku is basically up today. It's actually looking pretty decent. Roblox is actually still looking pretty good. It's up today. So not everything's terrible. Cart, let's see, Cart, well, yeah, like Cart's up today. So it's not totally terrible for everything out there. I really like Cart. We're in it. I actually personally added to it the other day. Now, maybe this is actually news that might be happening, because look at the volume that's kind of come into this, and it's gapping up. So there might be news on Cart. But if you look at the overall chart, this is why we've been staying in Cart, is because it has been holding these trend lines pretty well and getting rejected at these upper trend lines. And it has been doing a phenomenal job of holding the weekly 21, even though the whole market has been pulling back for a month. So you look at something like that and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to be in it. And so this is I think it's been annoying. We're having to be really patient with this. This kind of reminds me of John Carter's $5 million Google trade. And I don't know, maybe I should go put more money on this thing and go buy some options or something. But yeah, you got to kind of be patient with this thing. But I think it's looking okay. And we've got a big squeeze on this. So, again, those of you guys out there on the social medias, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, I really hope, come on over to the Moxy room. We're having a good time over here. This really is feeling like 2020. It's a little bit more contained. 2020 was actually a problem because it was so explosive. It was like letting the genie out of the jar, I guess, the lamp, and it just too much. It was too much craziness all at once, and it was overdone. And everything went bad. Inflation picked up. It was just a problem, and so they had to put the genie back in the lamp. And so I'm actually okay that the market's taking its time, because the slower it goes up, the longer this bull market will last before it gets too crazy. So I'm actually really okay with this kind of stuff. And we just have to make sure that if you're buying options, you buy enough time, or you get your timing right. And so something like Cart, it's looking great. I think this is looking absolutely fantastic. And we just had to be really patient and through here. Trader B, thanks. Yeah, what's the news? Cart news. Instacart added to S&P Midcap 400. Okay. Launches same day Ulta delivery. So midcap funds need to buy it, hence the volume. That makes sense. And Ulta partnered with Cart. Fantastic. I'm going to have to call my dad. And I told my dad, I said, look, he made with us what, over 100 or 200% on SoundHound. And I said, Dad, this thing doesn't stay up there. Like, most of it was in SoundHound. I was like, you got to take money out of SoundHound, because it's just not going to stay up there. I said, you need to take it out, take your profits, and go redistribute it around some of these other names that are doing well. And he took some off. And then with the move down this morning, I was like, Dad, you need to take more out. Like, just take money out of that thing. And I said, I think you're underexposed in Cart. I kept hammering on him. I was like, you need to go put some more money in Cart. And he's still kind of dragging his feet. So now that we have news here with Instacart and Ulta, yeah, I'm going to give him a phone call after this. Be like, yo, Dad, put some more money in Cart. Okay. So yeah, we work together on this kind of stuff. So let's see. Ulta, how's that one looking? Yeah, no surprise. A lot of times, I guess it's partnered, so I don't know the details, but if you guys ever hear about one company merging with another company, the company that got bought, usually its stock goes up a lot because it got bought at a premium. The company who did the buying, it will go down because it just acquired another liability. And so you'll ever see that. That's why again, I don't know what the details are, if there's a bot or just a partnered or whatever. So maybe in that regard, it makes sense that Ulta's down, but remember the market's also down. And Ulta looks like it was a little bit stretched. Notice how far away price was from the daily 50, and notice that the hourly Moxy indicator, again, notice the Moxy indicator on the hourly chart fired right there, and it's down. So the Moxy indicator was telling you, hey, Alta probably not going to go up right this moment, despite the news. This was setting up even before the news came out. And yeah, Alta, it might start working out. Big picture, maybe there's a double bottom here, and maybe we're just now starting to see price start to recover on a longer time frame basis. Oh, nice, Emil. Great. I'm glad you think that we should add to cart too. Let's go put cart in our shopping cart. Let's go do that. Yeah. Okay, so I think that answers all the questions, guys. For those of you in the Moxy room, I'm going to be back on the mic in the central room, gosh, 2 hours from now, 11 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock central. And for those of you over, man, I see a ton of eyeballs. You guys might be interested. Come over to the Moxy room. We've got a 30-day trial for 7 days, or $7. 30-day trial for $7. You can come in, see what we're up to, and I think you guys might like it. David, I'll answer the call wall when I get off and just type it into the room. And other than that, yeah, guys, we're having a good time. This is a good market. Not everything's perfect, but it's still a really good market, and we're seeing the beginning of some really big moves. So we're having a good time. Okay, we'll see y'all in a couple hours, and you take